And welcome back. Now let's take a look at what we have on the front page of our local dailies before we head to the traffic situation. Good morning. The time now is 7 minutes past 7 a.m. Okay. A quick look at what we have on the front page of the Star newspaper. The Star newspaper, it's make or break for Raila Ruto dialogue. It's make or break for Raila Ruto dialogue. Committee has 18 days to conclude talks and submit report to the two principals, that is Raila Odinga and President William Ruto. The team has so far received 258 written memoranda and 60 oral submissions. That is for the talks happening at the Bomas of Kenya. And now it's make or break for Raila Ruto dialogue. The story continues therein on page 4 and 5. CS Ababu Namwamba defends record amidst onslaught from UDA detractors. That is on politics. It was pomp and color and pageantry that marked Utamaduni Day. That happened yesterday, and it was all pomp and color. The Utamaduni Day, we saw lots of entertainment from different communities, different tribes, different delicacies from different regions across the country. Detectives shot during a gun confrontation with wanted suspect dies in hospital. That's a story here that is making the headline of the Star newspaper. Detective shot during gun confrontation with wanted suspect dies in hospital. No longer at ease. Why DP Gachagua is anxious about Mount Kenya Region Unity Drive. Remember, that is a discussion we had here yesterday with my guests, and now it's here on the front page of the Star newspaper. Why DP Gachagua is anxious about Mount Kenya Unity Drive. That is the story. Yes, on page 6, you can take a look at that story. And finally, minor playing with the father's weapon, shoots, seriously injures brother in Turkana. That happened in Turkana. Okay, as far as this is concerned, the political beat of this story is, you can actually read the story of Constable Nyakundi, who succumbed to his injuries due to rupture in the nerves. He was shot during a confrontation with a wanted criminal. So, make or break moment as Ruto and Raila talks team enters delicate phase. They have got 18 days. Committee has 18 days to conclude dialogue and submit report to two principals, that is President William Ruto and Raila Odinga, as well as Parliament. And now Ruto and Raila are actually working together. According to Dr. Akura Okot, and I quote, these talks are a smokescreen, according to him, and is just to manage their bases. There is too much betrayal around it. I can tell you, Ruto and Raila struck a deal as early as February. That's just according to him, of course. So what are some of the contentious issues between Kenya Kwanza and Azimio? One of them is cost of living. Number 2 is boundary delimitation. Number 3 is 2022 presidential election results audit. Reconstruction of IEBC, reconstitution rather of IEBC. We have got fate of 4 IEBC commissioners who resigned after fallout with the chairman Wafula Chebukati. And here, last but not least, is fidelity to political parties. Remember, ODM or Azimio always maintain that they do not want parties affiliated to Azimio to be interfered with to join any other political outfit. And finally, what they have agreed so far is that establishment of office of the leader, these agreed issues, establishment of office of the leader of opposition, entrenchment office of the prime cabinet secretary. That is what's here on the Star newspaper. So, the story again about Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. He is no longer at ease. Why Gachagua is anxious about United Mount Kenya? Pundits say that point to his unpolished image, loose tongue, and inability to win trust of key regional leaders. Okay. So you can also take a look at that story. It's full page here on page 6. It says that the outspoken second in command has left no doubt about his ambition for the top seat, and the first checkbox is consolidation of his ethnic backyard to emerge as its undisputed leader. Is it? Please grab a copy and read that story. KFS, that Kenya Forest Service, plans to fence forest in Bomet, Nakuru counties. The issue of forest in the Mau forest still on course. A bubble defense record amid onslaught from UDA leaders says that it is wrong to consider opinion of some ruling party officials as party position on his performance. Okay. Fine. So let's talk about this issue. Finally, mental health must be treated as basic human right, according to World Health Organization. The organization says that 1 in 8 people globally live with mental health and conditions. So it has to be treated as human right. Very well. That's in the front page of the Star newspaper. How about People Daily? Very quickly. How KCSE exam was stolen, according to audit. How KCSE exam was stolen, according to the audit. That is on the front page of the People Daily. How KCSE examination was stolen, according to the audit. The story continues to say that as National Examiner gets ready to roll out the next round of Form 4 tests, investigations by a parliamentary committee reveal how coalition, funds and poor logistics conspire to leak last year's papers. That is on page 6 and page 7. But the issue of exam cheating has been here for a very long time. Remember, the former president also made some stringent measures to curb exam cheating. The late Professor Magoha also made some stringent measures to curb exam cheating. But here, the audit stipulates clearly what really happened. Now, this is just but a glance. 3.5 million candidates set to sit national exam this year. That is 3.5 million candidates set to sit national exam this year. That is starting on October 30th, when the exams will kick off. They will end on November 24th. The exams will start on October 30th, run to November 24th. And so far, 29 phones seized from candidates in Garissa last year, and 44 cases of cheating that DCI officers are investigating. The question is, what really happens to the suspect caught during the examination cheating? What are some of the measures that the government is putting to curb examination cheating? That is on the front page. Time to celebrate Kenya's diverse cultures. The Utamaduni Day happened yesterday at the Bomas of Kenya. That is the inaugural Utamaduni Day. First Lady Rachel Ruto joined actually traditional dancers in a performance during yesterday's Utamaduni Day celebrations at the Bomas of Kenya. It was indeed beautiful. And then finally on the front page, Khalwale leads push to kick out UDA's Malala. That again on page 5 of the People Daily. I beg your pardon. That's Khalwale, All I Want Malala ousted. That is here on People Daily. The Kakamega senator and another UDA party member accuse him of overstepping his mandate. Says that Khalwale has filed a petition with the party's dispute resolution committee to have the former Kakamega senator kicked out. In the petition, he and another UDA member, that is Walter Mkinginyi, accused Malala of usurping the authority and duties of the party's National Election Board. Now the duo allege that Malala's move to appoint county and regional administrators to oversee upcoming local elections set for December 9th amounts to abuse of office. All right. So that is the thing. And finally, court stops deployment of security team to Haiti. Remember that story also featured yesterday. Our court, that's Dr. Akuru, our court filed a petition saying that peacekeeping mission is a gross violation of the law, and therefore they want Parliament to vet that particular exercise before security officers are deployed to Haiti for that peacekeeping mission. Kenya is meant to lead that multinational operation to bring sanity to that particular country. According to Justice Chacha Mwita of Milimani Constitutional and Human Rights Division, issued temporary, temporary orders halting the decision of to deploy the officers to Haiti or any other country pending the hearing and determination of a case lodged by 2 petitioners. That is Third Way Alliance leader Ekuru Aukot and party chairman Miruru Waweru, until the case is heard and determined. That will be coming up on 24th of October. That is this month. Okay, so you can take a look at that story, pomp and color, yesterday at the Bomas of Kenya, Utamaduni Day. And finally, in the story about front page, how technology aided last year's KCSE exam cheating. House team says that social media platforms were used to leak test materials rather, to teachers and students. That is as far as this is concerned. You can take a look at the story of that. Remember, 3.5 million candidates to sit this year's national examination. Okay, that is on People Daily. And on the front page of the Standard, here we are, facing Uhuru. The Standard, facing Uhuru. We have got two gentlemen there. We have got President, actually three gentlemen. We have got President William Ruto, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, and former President Uhuru Kenyatta. The story says, okay, all right. The story continues to say that after spending 5 years bashing his predecessor, the president and his deputy appear to have a change of mind and are heaping praises on a man that they have loved to hate. So what is afoot and why the change? That is a big question here. Let me quote what the president said while on his tour of Kisumu. And I quote, "I must congratulate my predecessor, President Uhuru Kenyatta, for his foresight in coming up with this, that is the Kisumu shipyard refurbishment. To see what we are seeing here is phenomenal." That is what President said in Kisumu. And the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, said, "The elections are over. It is time to gather and unite our people. We have agreed that no leader will pelt from President Uhuru Kenyatta with stones because he is still our son." So what is afoot and why the change? That is a question we also tackled here yesterday with my guests. And we asked the question why Mount Kenya is quite, shaky in as far as 2027 political realignment is concerned, and why the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is also going after Uhuru Kenyatta. And should Uhuru Kenyatta be drawn back to the political arrangement? And what are some of the former President Uhuru Kenyatta's influence in as far as Kenya Kwanza government is concerned? Is he needed? If he's needed, why is he needed in the party or in the current political situation? Looking for the kingpin. Why is former President Uhuru Kenyatta quite important in this political matrix? Interesting times ahead, right? Okay. So, Azimio leader backs Ruto's move on ports. That is, Raila Odinga says that concession of key port services to improve efficiency is global best practice, but county leadership must be involved. That is according to Azimio leader Raila Odinga. NSSF's 2 billion shillings mere paper, land goes up in smoke. Scandal after scandal, scandal after scandal. Okay, so you can take a look at that story. More trouble for Chiloba as audit report flags cash paid to CA staff. That is a report recommends that senior communications authority staff refund allowances awarded irregularly. Okay, irregularly. Raila backs Ruto decision on port services. That is as far as that is concerned. And he says that KPA has floated international tender to concession services in Mombasa and Lamu ports, but coast leaders have rejected plans, saying that it is tantamount to selling key port services. I want to take a break there on the newspapers, but before you leave your house, how about you take a look at what we have on the traffic situation on our major roads heading... And welcome back. All right. So facing Uhuru, Ruto, Gachagua, about turn. That is the story on the front page of the Standard. Really, it's an interesting read. You can take a look that Ruto embraces Uhuru's policies and praises him for foresight in shipyard refurbishment, while Gachagua promises to protect Uhuru and forbids politicians from insulting him. Let's just say it's politics. Let's just say it's politics. We all know what really happened. And yeah, politics. One gentleman, former governor who is now Senator, Jackson Manago, once said that siasa usiweke kwa roho, utaumia. What do? Weka kwa lungs, you breathe in, you breathe out, and life goes on. Correct? Correct. Take a look at that story. It's well fleshed out there for you on the Standard. Okay. Beg your pardon. And finally, on the front page of the Daily Nation, this must be a very interesting read. That is book serialization. Book serialization, Moi's Last Days. An interesting read there. On the front page of the Daily Nation, that is Moi's Last Days. Must be an interesting bit. The story says that when former President Daniel Arap Moi started experiencing difficulty in walking in 2017, it sparked concern from his personal doctor, that is David Silverstein, and his family, and thus began the deterioration of Mzei's health that saw him flown to Israel for his final medical cum religious trip. Then followed the ups and downs in his treatment journey until he breathed his last in February 2020. Read about this and more in the final installment of Heartbeat, an American cardiologist in Kenya. An interesting story there. An interesting story. How Ruto visit exposed soft underbelly of ODM rebels. Remember, this happened. That President William Ruto's 4-day tour of Nyanza may have been the perfect opportunity for leaders who broke ranks with Azimio leader Raila Odinga to demonstrate that they were valuable team players in the head of state's side. But this wasn't the case, as they faced embarrassing moments in the presence of their guest. The story here is on page 4. The story is all about politics. ODM rebels get brutal reality check during Ruto tour. He said that at some point, some of them were booed, some of them were not even allowed to speak. That it was in the presence of their guest. That is the story here. Azimio leaders from Nyanza region had devised strategies to embarrass rebels in front of president. That is, according to some of them. Okay, again, on the side of Kenya Kwanza, unease over party election sparks fierce battles in UDA. Remember, the story is also here on People Daily, where Khalwale leads push to kick out UDA's Malala. That is for usurping his the party and his authority. The petition is to bar Malala from overseeing poll filed at UDA's Dispute Resolution Committee, which was filed by Boni Khalwale and another. The petition seeking to restrain Secretary General Cleophas Malala from has been filed at UDA's Dispute Resolution Committee by Senate Majority Leader Boni Khalwale and another petitioner over alleged plans to manipulate the December 9th party primaries. Always a big nut to crack and always so hard. For political parties, ODM will also, or Azimio will also have their party nominations, grassroots nominations sometimes next year on a date that will be announced. First Lady in push for national dress to promote culture and patriotism. I remember this was also floated by former Tourism Cabinet Secretary, that is Najib Balala, who said that Kenya should have their identity in as far as our dress code is concerned. Other countries have theirs. What about Kenya? We only celebrate the Maasai. See Maasai? You celebrate Kenya. Okay. So that's as far as that is concerned on the papers. Okay. Before we wind up on this, let me take you through very quickly on the front page of our international news headlines. What we all know is the fight that inside Israeli border village where Hamas killed families in their homes. This was updated almost 8 hours ago. In Kfar Aza, Israeli soldiers tell the BBC that they have uncovered a massacre of civilians, including children and babies. Children and babies. That is what is there. Again happening nowhere safe in Gaza as Israeli strikes intensify. That is what is happening here. Where do we go? That's a big question. Nowhere safe in Gaza as Israeli strikes intensify. Updated around 8 hours ago on the front page. This is the way the Gaza Strip, all we know about Gaza Strip is a mess. And Israeli strikes part of Gaza City's wealthiest neighborhood was Monday brought down to this. And that is what's happening in Gaza. And the big question is, where do we go? Is there a safe place left for us in this neighborhood, which was so quiet and beautiful? That's according to the resident who said that the apartment block in Rimal said that everything came down by aerial airstrikes. That is what is happening there. So that is what's happening in... as far as that's concerned. There's a live feed and an update of what's happening. Israeli airstrikes continue in Gaza as death toll climbs on both sides. And evacuate to nowhere. This, as far as this is concerned, we don't know how long. But U.S. President Joe Biden yesterday also gave his speech and said that no one should try. No one should try. Africa Live, bogus TikTok doctor under fire in South Africa. So-called Dr. Matthew Lani faces criminal proceedings for impersonating a medical doctor and more. Interesting times, right? Interesting times. Okay, how about the front page of France 24 is all about Gaza. And this one is also a live update on what's happening in Gaza. Perhaps these are people carrying the casket and remains of the casualties there. Israeli airstrikes on Gaza continue. Death toll mounts on both sides. That is as far as that's concerned. Israel stepped up its offensive on the Gaza Strip on Tuesday in response to an unprecedented attack by Hamas, pounding neighborhoods with airstrikes and expanding the mobilization of reservists. The military said that it had regained effective control over the Gaza border and areas Hamas attacked in the south of Israel. And now the war, which has claimed at least 1,900 lives on both sides, expected to escalate. That was also updated around 4 minutes ago. That is what is happening. Sad state of affairs there in Gaza. And as far as that is concerned, it's not so good. Remember, when your brother's or your neighbor's house is on fire, always take time and check. Again, finally, U.S. talking to Israel, Egypt about safe passage of Gaza civilians, according to White House. Remember what I've just told you. The U.S. is talking with Israel and Egypt about the idea of a safe passage of Gaza civilians as Israel strikes the enclave after a deadly Hamas attack over the weekend, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said on Tuesday. We'll continue to update you as far as this is concerned. And how about we bring it closer home? This is Africa. Again, not so okay. The United States officially labels the ousting of Niger's president a coup. That's according to the U.S. officials. The coup still continuing there in Niger. And now it's not so easy. The announcement means the U.S. will be suspending financial aid and military support to the country. Meanwhile, the first convoy of French troops prepare to leave the country. Also in this edition, Liberia heads to polls as President George Weah eyes a second term, the footballer. And finally, on the World Mental Health Today, we take a talk on what's there. Okay, that's just but a quick update on what's happening in Africa. Okay. So, that is as far as that is concerned. Very good. Thank you so much. So, today we want to take a look at what we have on Know Your Member of Parliament. Know Your Member of Parliament. And today we want to feature Abdul Harukore, who is member of Turkana South. I'm going to take a break with that. Know Your Member of Parliament. This is the story of Abdul Harukore.
Mandera County is located in the northeastern part of Kenya. It borders Wajir, Ethiopia and Somalia.
I, Abdul Ibrahim Haro, having been elected a member of the National Assembly, do swear in the name of the Almighty God. Mheshimiwa Kore, or Abdul Ibrahim Haro, was born in a village in Elwak. Elwak is a sub-county in Mandera South constituency, which is in Mandera County. Mandera County is right on the border with Somalia. Partly on one side it's bordering Ethiopia, and on the other side it's bordering Somalia. So I was born in a village called El Hagarsu, that is the Tumtu, in 1972. Not a very young man.
It's a long time.
And initially, when we were born, around that time, our parents had a lot of livestock. Particularly my family was a family of camel herders. They had cattle, they had sheep. And the first school usually, when you just come of age, around 6 years, when a normal child is supposed to be going to nursery, the first nursery you are sent to is to herd livestock. And usually as a small boy you start with goats. In fact, you start with the kids of the goats, then you graduate to herding the goats, then you graduate to herding either the cattle or the camel.
Just like a rite of passage.
Just like a rite of passage. So when I was young, when I was sent to look after kids, the goat kids, which are normally herded just around the village, I was not a very good herder. I used to take the kids out, and immediately I'm out of the sight of the homes. I look for a cool, shady place and I sleep. So in the evening, when I take back the kids, they're either missing 5, 10, and when I went home every evening, I used to be rebuked. I was a very bad herder, and they thought I was useless because that is the life. And then they thought, what do we do with this guy now? He's so useless. And they agreed now they will dump me in a school somewhere.
Yes, you are not useful to them.
I'm not useful to them. So they were going to condemn me to a school somewhere. And that's how I ended up joining school.
Yes.
I went through my primary schools. I never went to nursery. I started straight from primary school. And then I went all the way through high school. I joined Jamhuri High School, finished my Form 4. I think I was among the very first 844 graduates. I joined the University of Nairobi, took a course in agriculture, BSc Agriculture, and I took the option of livestock production. And later I also joined University of Nairobi for my master's in international conflicts management. Immediately after university, I joined international NGO called Practical Action. It's a British NGO working in Mandera then. So my first job, sent me back home. When many youths who finish university would like to have jobs in Nairobi, jobs in big cities, and buy cars, buy houses, and what have you, by tweak of fate, so if I may put it that way, my first job sent me to Mandera.
Feel some type of way?
What that?
Some type of way? Did it make you feel some type of way?
Yes, I felt, why am I coming back home? An area which I'm very familiar with, area which I've been here for all my childhood. But then, as I realized later in life that perhaps God had his own ways of preparing me for what was to come, because that was a humanitarian organization, and the region being a humanitarian region, so I got involved in those issues that affected our people from a very early age. And I started now visiting displaced homes. I started visiting, homes where disaster has struck, whether floods, whether drought, whether pastoralists who are being dropped out of their way of life because of the droughts. The region used to have a lot of conflicts, either between ethnic groups or even internationally when they were invaded by neighbors from across Somalia. I came right at the center of what was happening. That is what exactly drove me into politics, because I started now becoming angry with those people who are causing these problems to the people, and I also became a bit agitated because it appeared like the region then was not was very marginalized, so to speak, and that level of marginalization also put a lot of resentment in me about my leaders, about the national government, and I started questioning, why is there nobody doing anything about this problem? Why am I seeing girls drawn out of school and getting married to older men, and nobody's talking about these issues and the life of that girl is? So these are some of the things that actually prepared me early on. It's a very challenging job, but I love challenges. I never run away from challenges. I confront challenges. But as I told you earlier, the nature of the work that I was doing before was also very challenging, because I was working in very conflict-prone area. Things were very fluid, and you are dealing with emergencies all the time. So it's more or less like another type of emergency, being an MP, because every day you're dealing with issues concerning your constituents, issues concerning the national politics, issues concerning parliament, issues concerning budgets. You deal with different issues every day. But because of the background that I had, I am very much in touch with my people. I have very good channels of communication with my people in all the 5 wards in my constituencies, and I sort of get the real issues on the ground. And these are the issues I normally raise even in Parliament. Whenever I stand to raise an issue in Parliament, it's always informed by what's affecting my people on the ground. And I've raised quite one biggest problem I have in my constituency. And it's a challenge, not actually a problem, is that I have perhaps one of the biggest youth cohorts in Mandera County. My constituency has one of the biggest youth cohorts, especially from up to 18 years, 16, 18 years. It's a very huge population. And some of them have gone to school, they have certificates, they have university degrees, but all of them are unemployed. So the question of unemployment is a very big issue. I tried to set up a small team to work with me in my constituency office, and I can assure you the demand of those who wanted to work with me was huge. I was not able to cope, and I received a lot of blame at the end of the day because I could not accommodate all of them, and those who missed out thought perhaps other parameters were used rather than the fairness and what have you. So my biggest manifesto, the biggest manifesto I have is how do I engage this youth? Not necessarily, in white collar jobs. How do we create opportunities for this youth? Either by lobbying other organizations, or even by lobbying government, or even by creating, income generating activities for this youth. And that is why I like the idea of digital economy, which the Kenya Kwanza government is proposing, and I'm trying to make sure I'll be one of the first MPs to create those ICT hubs in each of the wards in my constituency, so that the government has promised they will train 500 youths every year in those ICT hubs, and then they will also link them to digital jobs, so that that could also be one of the ways that I'm thinking I will help my youths in my constituency to come out of poverty, despite lobbying for them to have other opportunities. The other biggest issue I have in my constituency, and it's an issue which I need to deal with it one way or the other, is the issue of electricity. Energy.
I hope somebody's listening.
It's a big problem in my constituency. And 2 of the former MPs, one of the major reasons why they were sent home was the question of...
How far is the main power line?
We are off-grid, so we depend on this diesel-generated whatever. So for some reasons, KPLC has made my constituency, and LWAC being the center, has given me very few staff. So the staff capacity that I have in that small station is below par. I have no staff dealing with, for example, what they call operations and management. None. So that if anything goes wrong, even with the machine, nothing happens. So power is the biggest problem, especially when we're talking of digital economy, when we're talking of internet. There are very many hustlers, the mamambogas, the kinyozis, those people who are hustling to sell cold water. It's a hot area, and cold water sells like hot cake, cold sodas, all those people suffer Every time there is a blackout in that region, and blackout comes, it takes months before something is done about it. So that power is a big problem for my entire constituency, and all the 5 wards are affected. And if we need to pull these people out of, poverty that they are in, I think we need to address the question of power, so that we can have internet, so that we can have electricity. Our hospitals there are having problems. I have a hospital in a place called Kutulo, which is on a single phase, and it requires 3 phase for it to operate the machines. So because of that incessant blackout, sometimes we even deliver women using torches at night. We have a level 4 hospital, but we are delivering women using torches at times at night because of the incessant and blackout which has refused to go away. So electricity is 2 other major problem which I'll make sure I try to deal with it as a priority issue. And then, of course, the question of food security. Food security is a major issue. That place is a region which has always been dependent on relief food and what have you. We need to see how we can improve our production in terms of livestock production. Our people, and then there is the question of climate change and the way it is affecting that region, droughts and what have you. So those are 3 key priority areas: the youth problem, electricity, and food security.